Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies. Hey, why don't you try to tap into the Florida market on games, action figures, and back issues? Check out their What's Not app and their Facebook Live auctions. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename Neuter 2. Well, it's taken some time. We are getting back into our famous comic book recaps. And we're going to start off not with GIJoe, but with the series that's kind of going below the radar. And I'm talking about Thundercats. So we're going to go through the first three issues looking at this title that some people may have forgotten. Now, if you've been watching my comic book pickup episodes, I've been showcasing um, these issues in the past 3 months, and with the promise of going through and recapping them. Well, I think now is a good time. So we're going to use a little bit of a different format. We're kind of going through an overview while I flip through the pages versus me taking a picture of each page, cutting it, editing it, all that stuff. This will make it go a little bit faster until we catch up, because we're about several months behind in comic book recaps. I know that's been the bread and butter of this channel, and especially with the GIJoe IDW run, we went through all the entire run, and with the resurgence of GIJoe, we see other people are starting to do it. But hey, the originals are always the best. So we're getting back into the game, and I hope you join us for the ride. So let's start off with the Thundercats from Dynamite Publishers. Let's dive in and take a look. Alrighty, so let's look at the covers. I know I showcased these during our monthly comic book pickups, but the thing a lot of fans know with Dynamite is there's always like 10 or 15 cover variants that Dynamite offers. So it's a pain in the ass, but I specifically been targeting the covers with Shitara. I mean, it's pretty obvious why, but she is my favorite Thundercat, and that is pretty cool. And I think the artwork, especially in this series for the cover arts, have been phenomenal. So this is issue number 1, and I really, really love this cover. This is well done. And then with issue 2, this is the cover A, and this is the Shitara cover. I think this was cover C, but it kind of has like that chrome background, like like a kind of like a gunmetal type of background. I think this is also very nicely done. And issue number 3, another Shitara cover, just kind of catching her running, and I think this is another nicely done cover. So those are the three, the 4 covers that I picked up, and now let's dive in with issue number 1. And of course, we have to set the mood when we read our comic books, and I brought out my LJN Thundercat action figures. We have Lion-O here with the Sword of Omens. I'm kind of missing his claw on this one. Panthro, another one of my all-time favorites. And the one that was a pain in the butt to track down, and it's actually quite a bit of coin, is Shitara. Now, if you watched my Toylanta episode last year, that was on the agenda, was finding an LJN Shitara at a reasonable price. I am missing her bow staff, but I'm going to get that one 3D printed and put that on her. But Lion-O, I actually have the ring. If you remember in the back, you could plug in the ring there and his eyes would light up, and then he has look, that still works. Isn't that fucking amazing? So the Sword of Omens, the chopping still works. This is probably going to fall. If it does, I'm sorry. It's tough to do this when you have one hand, but you guys get the deal. So anyway, yeah, that is one of the things. Everyone knows me for picking up GIJoes, but hey, I love all the iconic 80s franchises, but I wanted to share that, just kind of set the mood before we dive into issue number 1. Alrighty, before I dive in, it looks like little Tort is up here, and he just got his, well, he's about to get his bath. He likes to get a nice scrub on his shell. That feels good for him. So he's about to get a quick bath, and then we're going to dive into some wonderful stories. Alrighty, so let's dive into issue 1 of Thundercats from Dynamite Publishing. And I guess just to show everybody when I'm talking about Dynamite's, these are all the cover variants for Dynamite. And this is normal. They do Vampirella and Red Sonja. And you guys know I've collected those in the past. And it's always such a big, well, it's just a whole bunch of covers. I don't know. Some people like these. I think maybe 1 or 2 is good, but a whole bunch of them seems to diminish or devalue the significance of each issue, in my opinion. So with that said, let's look at the title page. Love that gray and black on like a marble type Thundercats logo. That's always one of the coolest logos from the 80s. Dekan Shalvey is the writer. I have no idea who he is. And Drew Moss is the artist. Again, Dynamite is known for that. They don't, where Marvel and DC pick up the top known people, these guys are usually up and coming. So that is good and bad. You never know. But let's give this guy the chance. I think what he's done so far, blending the new and old, I think so far is pretty good. So we begin with the very beginning. The explosion of Thundera. Thundera, just like in the cartoon series, the destruction of Thundera, kind of like Krypton for Superman. Their home planet is destroyed, and I guess the Thundercats were the noble section of Thunderians that escaped. So, we see the Sword of Omens and kind of like the backstory, the battle between the mutants of Plundar. They crave the Eye of Thundera. That's their objective, is this Sword of Omens, the actual eye itself possesses some mystical powers that is sought out by all of the Thunderians' enemies. So we see that just like in Star Wars, like it's kind of like blending a little bit of everything. There's a big space battle as they escape the destruction of their planet. Plundar's mutants are attacking the ship. There's a space battle going on. And then they jump into some, I guess, hyperdrive type of thing. And we see that they need someone to man this vessel. And GIJoe volunteers, and not knowing, everyone doesn't know or realize this, but because this has to happen, GIJoe has to be awake. So quite a significant amount of time transpires, and he will eventually pass away. So here's our splash page with the Thundercats, the Thunderians arriving on Third Earth. And here we have Wily Cat, Tigra, Panthro, Shitara, Lion-O, Wily Kit. There's no Snarf. All right, Snarf. And we see Lion-O looking out into the vastness that is Third Earth, their new home. So here we go into a little bit of the backstory. I kind of summarize it, that the all remaining Thundercats were put in these pods to be in stasis while they made this epic journey. And for some reason, as they noted, that Lion-O's pod malfunctioned. So he was at the same age, at the same time they were put in. Wily Kid, Wily Cat, and Lion-O were the 3 youngsters. So they were all in the same age group, same class. So they were all put in together. Then by the time they got out, Lion-O is this adult. So they noted that there was a malfunction. They didn't know also that GIJoe would be dead. So as they assess the situation and their new home planet, it dawns on Lino that with Jaga's death and he was a prince, that the daunting task of leading the Thundercats is now thrusted upon him. So his mind may be still that of a teenager, but the fact is that all the responsibilities have suddenly emerged, and he's kind of realizing that, oh God, I got to do all this. I need to act my part, so to speak. So that's something that's transpiring in this panel. And then at the same time, someone was following the Thundercats on this epic journey. I wonder who that could be. And they discovered that, hey, they did survive and we were able to locate them. So let's go down and say hello. So wonder who these guys are. This is a separate ship. Now we begin with the training montage, kind of like with Star Wars: A New Hope. With Lino is trying to be blindfolded and destroyed these pods, and he's complaining to Panthro, I'm Lino now. I'm an adult. This is kiddie stuff. I don't need this. And Panthro is like, nah, you got to do it. You got to prove yourself. You're just because you grew up and you're the leader doesn't mean you have to earn it still. And I think that's where we're going to see some problems. Is he feels like just because he's bigger and of his position, he should automatically be followed without question, so to speak. So Panther has a little lesson for him. So they throw out all these discs and he's slicing them, and then Panther kind of like slips in a nunchuck shot because he missed two. He's so hell-bent on destroying that he's not mindful of his surroundings. And then out anger, he slices the two. And Panther just casually trips him, showing that he's off balance. A lot of Star Wars analogies right there, if you think about it. Anger and stuff blinds you to your surroundings and what's like right in front of you, blindfolded or not. And Lino is all like, what's your deal, man? Why are you so like harsh on me? Why are you being such a prick? And he's like, Lino's like, back home you were like my mentor, my confidant. And he's like, you know what? I am, but I'm also your general. So Panthro has this, like, we'll see. We kind of saw it on the cartoon, but now we're really going to see it more in this comic series, that he takes his shit seriously. He's really like, I need to uphold my position and my place in preserving the life of the Thunderians. And of course, now we see Tigra. Tigra's task, because he's kind of like the scientist, like Donatello was the scientist. There's always the one, or Wheeljack, or Ratchet, or Perceptor. It's always like the one guy who's kind of like the geek. But in Tigra's case, he's out there assessing this new land, gathering intel. What species are friendly, should be watched, what is edible, what is not edible. And he comes across this hare. And all of a sudden, his tiger-like instincts kick in. He's like, I'm a little hungry, and that looks like a nice snack. I love this panel right here because you kind of see the tiger element of Tiger coming to fruition. I think that's very nicely done. And then we see him kind of like ready to pounce on this animal, but all of a sudden, some whoosh, something runs right by him and kind of throws him off balance. And we see the lovely Shitara. Shitara is always like speed, speed, speed. And, it's kind of like one of these, like if you play football, you see all like speed kills, right? So she's kind of like gloating that, hey, you're fast. She sees Panthro and like kind of like, like, oh, do you want me to get you dinner for you then? Since you're a little hungry over there. I think that's kind of cute. And at the same time, they're wondering, where is Wily Kit and Wily Cat? And they're now joining the chase. But like in typical, youthful enthusiasm, they end up making more of a mess and end up turning on each other like no, I got it. No, I got it. And they kind of like get into a fight, and then they're like, I'm telling Lionel, just like typical sibling type of stuff. At the same time, like Chitara and Tigra look on as the hair just goes right between them and back to safety. So now we're back at the ship, and more training is going on. And Lionel's like, I'm ready to wield the sword and stuff. And again, Panthro reminds him, like, hey, you are not ready. I know you're mad and whatever, but you need to follow these things I'm trying to teach you, because in the long run, you need to prove yourself. Being born in a certain class and a size and what doesn't automatically make, and this is such a good metaphor for people, like, doesn't matter, you have to earn it. And we're getting into this TikTok self quick generate, everything cannot come quickly. And I think that's one of the downfalls of our society, is we think that everything comes quickly, but you have to work at it, you have to put in the time. And that's when you're able to attain it, those achievements mean more than something that's quick and easy. And that is very so much true. So we see like a little disagreement between Panthro and Lionel, and he kind of runs off to gather his thoughts. He's talking to himself. I don't get it. I am Lionel. I should be followed without any question. I am capable of doing this. And all of a sudden, he realized that he's being watched. And then we see that other ship descending down, and it's none other than the mutants. And they have followed the Thunderians to Third Earth. And now I think the few panel everybody's have been waiting to see. And I'm going to say this real quick. I'm kind of impressed how they were able to capture those iconic scenes of when Lionel summons the Thundercats. I think, this is a good job of illustrating that. And I love how the Sword of Omens is kind of like glowing with that lightning type of effect. That is pretty damn cool. And he goes, thunder, thunder, thunder. And now the best panel, I think, in this issue, Thundercats, ho! And what a great shot that is. That is pretty damn cool. I like that. That could be made into a t-shirt right there. But I like that. The Thundercats sign is kind of like fixated onto the mutant ship, showing everybody that the Thundercats are coming. And we see Slith, kind of like, it's that blasted sword. It's funny, they want it, they're also detested and they're afraid of it in a sense. And we see all the Thundercats are like, they hear the call that their ancestors and stuff have been responding to for many centuries. And of course, them being part of the royal guard, royal court, so to speak, they answer without question. But at the meantime, the signal of the sword stares another entity, another being of mystical powers. And I always loved Mumra's castle, a little bit of Egyptian. I always thought when I was a kid, it's like like 4 Washington monuments and a pyramid. So that's what I used to walk away with. But Mumra is on the same tier, I think, as Skeletor, Cobra Commander, Megatron. He is a good 80s baddie, and I've always liked that. I like how they incorporate the Egyptian mummies aspect of it. So back on the ground, we see Lino squaring off against Slith, leader of the mutants. And, he's kind of like taunting Lino, like, I remember when you were a little boy and you were all scared. Now, you're facing me. You think you're a little big, but, underneath that, you're still a little boy. And this kind of that's like the trigger word. Like, you think I'm a kid? And he kind of engages Slith. But here's the thing is that a fully, like, again, like a fully trained Jedi Knight, a person who is fully trained to wield the Sword of Omen should make quick, disperse any dangers very quickly. But he's struggling here, and he gets lucky. He dodges a chop right there. Woo, that was kind of close. Then he realizes that, these mutants, they don't play fair. So he's about to get overtaken by a whole army of mutants when all of a sudden the Thundercats come. They finally respond to they respond to Lionel's calling, and we see the Thundercats now engaged, evening up the odds. Each single one showcasing their ability. Panther with the nunchucks, Tigro with the whip, and Chitara with the bow staff. Wily Cat on their little hoverboard, so to speak. And they're just loving this. I'm sure they're probably itching for some action, right? And of course, Panther, being the generals, ordering everybody around. You flank there, you go there, and they're kind of showing how they work like a well-oiled machine. Even though you haven't done this for a while, it just shows the level of intensity and precision that they all come together. And of course, Lino has to one-on-one battle Slith. And I think Panther is like watching with like excitement, but with keen eyes, as a teacher would watching their student go out for the first time. And there's some good and some bad we see here. Lino is really the words are going back and forth between each other. And of course, Wily Kid and Wily Cat, destroying, damaging the ship kind of takes Slit's mind off. All right, maybe we need to regroup and try this another day. Some common, whether it's Cobra Commander or Skeletor, the bad guys always have to retreat, right? So this is playing out like a typical cartoon episode, and I think that's pretty good. We see the Sword of Omens kind of and it's getting more strength, and he's using it, and he shatters Slit's weapon, the eye or his sword gets shattered. So that's something that that's a big thing. Like, what happened? The sword didn't answer my call, and it's broken. The impossible has occurred. And we see Lino holding the sword a dead relative or something. He's like, oh my God. Because, his position and the fact that he's still a kid, this is overwhelming to him. He's kind of like, what the fuck? I'm not worthy. And of course, that third entity has awakened, and he feels the power of the Sword of Omens, and he's like, I want this for myself. So we get Mumra. But what is this connection with Jaga? Because he's talking to Jaga's ghost there, saying that, tell me what you have done with it, Jaga. So what is this? This is a little new wrinkle from the cartoon. So I'm interested to see that. And then we get the advertisement for issue 2. I wasn't kidding about the covers. I think I said, 15? Look at that. There is 3 pages of covers. Ooh, this is a nice one I need to get. Retail exclusive KRS Comics for Chitara. That's a pretty good cover. And you see the one that I got. Cover W. No, I got cover E. So that's the cover I got. This was the one that's in comic. This is a good one too. It's just the Thundercat sign. Then we got one with the action figure. But yeah, I like this one. KRS Comics. So that's an exclusive. I guess you have to go to their website and order that. Then we see more of the covers. Well, anyway, that does it for issue 1 of the Thundercats. Let me know what you think so far. I'd love to hear. And I know I said I'd do all 3 together, but I think this is probably going to be one. I'm going to probably do it like the other, like I do with GIJoe, one at a time till we catch up. So this is shabooru.